Hello and welcome to today's European SharePoint Office 365 and Azure Community webinar. My name is Shane and I'm delighted to be joined by Melissa Hubbard, Teams Technical Specialist, Microsoft USA, who will be talking to you today about how to automate business processes with Power Automate and Teams integration. Remember to join the conversation about today's webinar on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is ESPC20. Don't forget to check out the Resource Center. This is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. Simply visit sharepointeurope.com and click the content link at the top. Interested in taking part in ESPC20 in Amsterdam this November? Call for speakers is now open at sharepointeurope.com, where you will also find details of our 30% discount offer, which ends on Thursday, the 27th of February. After the webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type any questions you have in the questions window. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and you will be notified by email when it is available. And now I'm going to pass you over to our webinar presenter, Melissa Hubbard. Hello, Melissa.
Hello, thank you for having me. Good morning, good afternoon. Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, take it away, Melissa.
All right. So thank you again for having me here for Teams Week. Very excited to be here. I know my title is a little bit wordy, Automate Business Processes with Power Automate and Teams Integration. So really today, what I want to do is show how helpful Power Automate can be in automating your business processes right within Teams, where you're already hopefully getting your work done and spending time with your teammates and being productive. That noise is my cuckoo clock, in case you're hearing that. All right, so what are we going to cover today? I am going to talk to you about ways you can create flows to automate your business processes within Teams. I'm going to talk about native integration between Teams and Power Automate, the app and bot. And then I'm going to go through adaptive cards. It's one of my favorite things to use in Teams and how they can be sent through channel and chat messages. All right, so in this webinar, I've seen, we've had some great presenters over the week that have probably been going into a lot of detail about what Teams can do from a collaboration standpoint and productivity standpoint. But where I'm really going to be laser focused into is the apps and workflows portion right here, because we see Teams as a hub for teamwork, place to get things done. And part of that is bringing in your processes that either may or may not already be automated right into Teams so that you're not switching context and having to go into a lot of other places to get your work done. So really, I've began seeing Teams as a platform. I think most people have. It started off when I very first started using Teams, which was pretty much as soon as it became available. I fell in love with it because I could be working with my teammates easily, chatting, going back and forth with them, sharing files, staying on the same page, using my mobile app to call them. But as the product has grown and grown, and as we know, it's grown very quickly. More and more features are being added. Teams has really started to be more like a platform than an app. So where we're going to be focusing today is right here on automating tasks and low-code applications using Power Automate. But there's already ready-made solutions that you can connect with Teams from the Teams store. There's reference solutions and GitHub that developers can use as starting points for apps. and there's custom built apps if you need to extend and customize the apps that you already use. So we're going to be in this realm of Teams as a platform today. And why I feel this topic is so important. Two things for productivity that I see being key are collaborating with our team and then being able to automate some of the processes that really shouldn't need a human's brain to be focused on throughout the day. You know, there's repeatable tasks, there's things that we can automate so that the people, the humans, can work together and collaborate and be creative and make decisions and come up with new initiatives. So I see bringing these two together, Teams and Power Automate, together, how we'll get work done better, smarter, faster. So again, we're humans. We're not computers. We're not processes. We excel at creative and strategic thinking, but a lot of our time is spent performing rote tasks. And in case you're like me and didn't know what rote tasks means when you first read this slide, it means kind of mechanical, repeatable tasks. So when we think about running our business on Teams, you know, this is our platform. This is where we want people working. We can put it into three buckets: projects, processes, and people. I would say with projects that could also come with work functions. So when we think about automation, it's where we really want to look at this processes and what could we be doing better to automate and make things easier for people who might be getting stuck in some old processes, old ways of thinking, and spending a lot of time getting their job done when really it would be great if we could be using their brain to come up with new ideas and strategies. So I want to give an example of a process. So let's look at the sales cycle. You're drafting a bid in Teams, a sales bid in Teams. You're writing messages, uploading files from OneDrive, you know, sending a message to your team. People are looking at it, reviewing it, making edits. Blah blah blah. Looks great. Okay. Next, you want the sellers to submit customer order. So now you're in a channel and now you're using a Power App and you're filling this out to make the order. So Power App is a product that works very closely with Power Automate and the Power Platform. So right within Teams, they've not left Teams, they're filling this out. Now we want to create the sales opportunity and model data. So they're opening up Dynamics, which is an app that's connecting with Teams, looking at Power BI reports. You know, we're still all in the same context, working together. Everyone and the team has access to this, communicating about it, making decisions. Whereas this could have been an email, this could have been going back and forth between several different applications. A lot more time can be spent on something like this. Here's what I want to focus on. So now we want to submit the proposal for approval. So now we can use Power Automate and submit an approval instead of sending an email saying, hey, has anyone looked at this? You know, here I'm getting a flow message and I can go in and decide if I approve or reject that and provide comments. This is just like you know, I know it goes pretty fast, but it's just a way to show that you really can stay right within Teams to manage a lot of your different processes and save time. And then to close the deal, of course, we've got the calling capabilities, meeting capabilities right within Teams. And again, we're still in context and we're still in that same app. So that's what I wanted to show there, is I think it's just a good way to get us thinking. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the basics of Power Automate, just so that I can set the stage for how we're going to use Power Automate to connect with teams and automate processes. So some of the main actions that Power Automate can do are get notifications, copy files, collect data, automate approvals. These are common business scenarios that people are doing all of the time. So these four I feel are like the most common, although the product has so many other capabilities. But when we think about business process automation, I come from a SharePoint consulting background where we were creating a lot of workflows using SharePoint Designer before we started using Power Automate. And many of them were just approvals. Like we've got these complex approval processes that are getting lost in the mix in emails, and it's wasting time. Approvals are usually a huge win if you're trying to get people on board with using automation within Teams. So the components of a flow, I just want to step back for a second and say, in case you aren't aware, Power Automate used to be called Flow when it first came out. It is now called Power Automate, but the workflows that we create are still flows. So these are the components of a flow. It does make sense. It would be wrong to say the components of a Power Automate. So it's a little confusing. So I just want to point that out. So the components of a flow, a workflow, connectors, triggers, conditions, and actions. So what does this all mean? And if you come from any type of background in creating workflows, triggers, conditions, and actions aren't going to be new to you. It's the connectors piece that's a little bit new when it comes to Power Automate. So connectors are services you're connecting to that you need to move data or connect with. Triggers are what will start your flow. There's several different types of triggers, but is it someone sending a message in Teams is your trigger? Someone making an update to a document in a SharePoint library a trigger? Basically, someone doing something. There's also buttons that can trigger a flow as well. So what's starting this process? Conditions add the logic to your flow. So I only want to run this flow if the payment field is over $50,000. If not, end the flow. Just adding conditions. So actions are what the flow is actually performing. What is the goal? What are we going to do? What problem are we solving? Here are the four types of flows. So you can run flows on a schedule. We have some examples of those, like sending out maintenance requests with a checklist to your team, to your IT team every month. Automated flows are flows that kick off from something else that's happening. That could just be, that could even be someone is using Twitter and tweets a certain hashtag. That could kick off your flow and start off the automation. Instant flows are ones that are manually started by a person. So that could be with a button. Flow has a pretty cool mobile app interface where you can have preset flows with a button. If you press the button, it'll kick off a flow. So Another one is in SharePoint, you can select an item and run a flow on just one item. So nobody needs to change any data. All you have to do is start the flow. That's an instant flow. Business process flows are sort of their own beast. They're very powerful, but I'm not going to cover them today. They're outside of the scope, and I don't have any examples of using them with teams. But I just wanted everyone to know there are 4 types of flows. So now going back to triggers and how to going back to triggers and teams, what could happen in teams that we would want to start a workflow? We would want to start an automation. So here's the 3 teams triggers. When a new team member is added, when a new channel message is added, and when I am mentioned in a channel message. The one I like the best is when a new team member is added, and this is actually one of the newer triggers because this opens up a lot of opportunity in teams. So I have a sales team, and we're using our team in a very specific way. We've got 5 channels that are being used for different reasons. Maybe we have some approval processes that are part of our team channels. We can automate when a new team member is added, send them information about this, give them some onboarding information. Welcome to the team. This is how we're using the team. Instead of just, one by one trying to figure out who might not have been onboarded or who doesn't know how we're using the team. So another one, that I like is when I am mentioned in a channel message. I like this one because for my own personal productivity, I could be part of a few different tenants, and the main thing I want to know immediately is if someone specifically at mentioned me, because we know being at mentioned means someone wants something from you. Someone wants an answer from you, or is asking you to do something or for help for something. So if it's not a tenant that I go in very often, I can have that trigger a flow and then send me that message to my mobile app, send me an alert that I've been at mentioned. So those are just 2 examples of triggers. Teams actions. So you can get all the messages from a team. You can post choice of options as the flow bot to a user. We're going to talk more about the flow bot, but this is pretty cool. The flow bot can send almost like a survey where you're selecting an option, and then you can take that data and store it somewhere and maybe review it in Power BI. There's a lot of opportunity there. Posting a message, post a reply to a message, creating a channel. If you really have a lockdown Teams environment and you don't want everyone to be able to create channels in your team, you can create a flow that has some sort of request, maybe in a form. Someone reviews it, and then it'll create the channel. List all of your teams, post messages, Flowbot, we're going to cover this more. Post adaptive cards, we're going to talk about those more. But there's a lot of different Teams actions, and these keep getting added. And the fact that they say they're in preview, I'm actually not sure why, because a lot of these actions have been available for quite some time. So I will be curious to see when this preview finally goes away. So there are also actions that are specific to Shifts, the Shifts app that's part of Teams now. So Shifts is an app in Teams that managers can use to create, update, and manage shift schedules, as well as approve time off requests. So it's considered a first line worker tool. It was formerly called Staff Hub. So you can see here that you can get some details which could then kind of automate your reporting. So list all of the team shifts, get time off reasons, get the shift, get schedule details. Maybe you need to put together a report in Excel, or you need to do something with this information. put it in a Power BI report to see what are the time off reasons, how are those breaking down. Power Automate can act as the glue that's moving that content out of shifts into another application. Teams templates. So Power Automate offers pre-built templates. So if you go into Power Automate and click on templates, you can search by teams, you could search by productivity. They give you a lot of different ways to filter these out. But it's a great way to at least get ideas of what is possible. And then often you'll find one like, post a message to Microsoft Teams from a selected file. You're like, oh, that is kind of what I need to do, but I also need to add an approval and send out a report after. Well, you can take that template as your starting point and you can add steps and make modifications if you need. Especially if you're new to using Power Automate, I would definitely say start off with a template. My first several flows that I created were based off of a template. One thing to note is the templates are for every user in the world. There's no way you can modify the templates just for your organization. You can request to have a template added, but you can't do anything else besides that. I've seen people making custom flow template solutions using SharePoint libraries and things like that. So that is an option. And if anyone's interested in that, I believe I know a few blog posts about it that I could point your way. So Power Automate can also be used to govern teams. There's a lot of people who have come up with really creative solutions on how to automate teams provisioning, automating channel creation, which we've already touched upon, getting reports of existing teams and channels. So having that connection between Power Automate and teams really can help with your team's provisioning. If you're wanting to do something different than just letting everyone create as many teams and channels as they want, you could put some controls in place and some automation in place using Power Automate. So that's worth mentioning here. So now I'm going to switch and I'm going to do a demo. And I'm going to show the power of connecting Forms, SharePoint, and Teams with a flow, Power Automate. All right, so let's talk about the business scenario and why this would be important. So we're a small company and we have been having some trouble recruiting people for new positions. And we had tried using we had tried using a bigger system that people would have to come in and fill out these very long applications, and we just weren't feeling like we were getting the candidates that we wanted. And we want to really reach people out in LinkedIn and in social media and the community, and try to get some new recruiting, just get some new people that might be interested in positions. So using a form, which is part of Office 365, you can actually share forms outside of your organization. So you can create a form and then allow for anybody to respond who has the link. I've also in Teams added this as a tab. So let me fill it out. But it really, you would want to be sharing this maybe to your mailing list or to LinkedIn, things like that. So basically, this is a form that a candidate who's interested in a position could fill out. I'm not going to fill out everything because it's just a demo, but it's all the basic information you would want to know. And this is a lot shorter than filling out pages and pages and pages about your work history and then having it time out or something and losing your work and then just saying, okay, forget it, I'm not applying for this job. This is hopefully just a quick way to show you're interested and give the information, basic information about yourself. And then at the bottom, it says, if someone from a company has referred you to us, enter their full name and then refers email. So I'm just gonna say I referred myself. And what this is going to do is send an email with an approval to this person to see if they would really, they really would approve of this employee, that they really do want to be an employee referral for this person. So when I submit that, take a second. I've got an email now. Do you approve this employee referral? This can be modified to look a little bit differently if you so choose. These buttons could say different things if you want them to. You could have custom responses, but I'm going to go ahead and approve. And so now let me go in Teams because we want to be working in Teams. We want to be keeping everyone informed in Teams. Let me go to post. So this posted when I submitted the form. So now they know somebody out there in the world went and filled out our form and completed an interest form. And now once I approved it, it's listed as approved. The candidates list that it's writing to with all of the candidates, I've added as a tab here. So I don't need to go somewhere else and look and be like, oh, who are all these candidates? Who should we start talking to? They're all right here. And so I will now show you that flow so you can see it. So when you open up a flow, it'll give you some details and it'll show you the connections to the services. These are those connectors we talked about, which are components of every flow. You need to have a connection. These are using credentials. They're using my credentials. If it was going to be a really big enterprise used flow, you might want to think about using a service account or something like that. You can have multiple flow owners, so which is recommended practice, so that if I leave, there's still an owner for the flow. So if I go up to edit, I can see the steps of it. My trigger is when a new response is submitted. It's letting me pick from the different forms I have created. Gets the response. It's creating that item in SharePoint by filling in the data from the form fields, posting the message to the HR team. This is sending the referral email. And if this was like always going to be someone internal, it would be nice just to have this go into Teams, but you never know what somebody's going to type in it for an email on an employee referral. They might only know your personal email address, so it's just safer to have this as an email. And then post the message that it was approved. So I just like to show this because I feel like, you can see we're in Teams, we're working in Teams, we're probably working on recruiting, marketing things, and now we're able to monitor these new submissions right from within Teams. So now I'm going to go back to my slides. and we'll talk about the Power Automate app in Teams. So this is like really that built-in extensibility that Power Automate has to offer within Teams. So you can add the app in Teams. You can view all of your flows and create new ones right from within Teams. You can view and take action on all of your approvals within Teams. You can add a flow tab into a channel that'll show you all of the flows that are associated with that team channel. And then you can start a conversation with the Flowbot to run flows. You can only run scheduled and instant flows using the Flowbot. So the really great thing, my favorite thing about this is right here in the approvals, because if you've ever heard me give a talk on Power Automate before, I usually talk a lot about approvals, just because, again, I see these as a really big win and time saver, and every organization has approval processes, whether they realize them or not, and they almost always could be streamlined and save a lot of time. So to be able to just be in Teams and be able to review and see all of your approvals you have pending, I think is pretty powerful. So when you add a flow tab in a channel, you can create and manage flows connected with a team. You can create a flow from the tab, and then it'll pre-populate the team info into the flow step. So especially if you have a team that's got a lot of automation going on, having that flow tab there will let everybody know, hey, there's some automation that's going on in this team, and it just keeps everything more centralized. Whereas if you have to go to the Flow app outside of Teams and then just try to figure out all of the flows that are connected with it, if you've not done good naming policies, it could be a little bit confusing. So what the flow bot can do. So in case you don't know what a bot is in general in Teams, it's basically being able to chat with the bot and give them a command, give the bot a command, and have something happen just by typing something out. So you can trigger any scheduled flow or instant flow with no inputs on demand from chat. So what does that mean? Any flow that you have running on a schedule, like for example, every week we send out these maintenance reports, or every 2 days we send out these reminders to get expenses entered in the system, whatever it might be, something that runs on a schedule, you're able to run from the Flowbot. And instant flows, so flows that are being triggered from a button or from selecting an item in SharePoint, as long as you don't need to add any additional information and you can just use the data that's part of that SharePoint item or part of that button, then you can run that from the Flowbot. So you can post messages and adaptive cards into Team Channel using the Flowbot, and you can send messages and adaptive cards to users in chat messages. So these you're setting up, and we'll show that. But so it's a little bit different. These aren't you're chatting with a bot. This is the bot is posting something on your behalf. Here's some business scenarios, recurring business scenarios for the Flowbot. So schedule recurring reminders to be sent in chat messages. So status reports, IT maintenance, timesheets, expense reports, running regularly scheduled automated reports ad hoc, like I want to know all of the new channels that were created, something like that. Running repeatable personal tasks. So I want to block out my calendar for an hour, or I want to track working hours in Excel, or send an email letting my manager know I'm out of the office. I could do all of these with the Flowbot just instead of having to go out and email my manager I'm out of the office, I could already have a preset flow that I'm just running from the flow bot. All right, so let me again just show it because it makes more sense to show it. So let me show the flow app in Teams. I'm gonna open up Teams. All right, so if I go here to the ellipse, I can select flow. I'm not exactly sure why this says flow and not power automate, to be perfectly honest. I was wondering that this morning. But anyway, so this is me opening up the flow app in my Teams client. And here I can chat with the flow bot. I can look at all of the flows that I'm an owner of. So this is me not having to go outside of Teams to go into the flow app to start working on flows. I can look at them all here. You can see my team flows, my UI flows, and I could also create a new flow. So you're basically getting to use flow within a window in Teams. And flow also has an approval center, but that's being brought here, so you don't need to go anywhere else. So these are flows I received, these ones I sent, my history. So this is all right here. And then if I go back to chat, this is where I can start using the flow bot. So list flows. This is bringing me all, so it's not going to bring me all my flows. Again, it's only going to bring me the flows that run on a schedule or can be manually triggered with no inputs. So I have one to send a channel report that will give me all of the new channels that have been added. I have another payment reminder to send to one of my teammates for in the billing department. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, see all the negative tweets that are retweeted in a report. So I'll just show you how to run one. I'll also run the channel one, but I don't think any new channels have been created. So you do run flow. I like to click that just to make sure it registered it, and then I'll pick the number, and I'll pick number 1. And then it'll just tell you that it's done, and that noise is me getting an email that I got the channel report. But again, it's not showing any new channels or their purpose. But if there were a bunch of new channels, then I would see them there. All right, let me keep going back to my slides. All right, so now we're going to talk about adaptive cards and teams, because these allow you to take action and teams in a nice organized way. They post richly formatted content into conversations or chat. They can contain images, graphs, richly formatted text. This is an example of an adaptive card being used in Teams. And basically, so Eliza, she's one of my friends, and she created this adaptive card, and her use case is people are out in the field doing something, maybe a little dangerous, maybe a construction site, maybe they're scientists that are out in the countryside. They have their mobile device. They press a button on their phone when they're having a problem and they need help. And by using their mobile phone, they're able to get the latitude and longitude of where they are, the date and the time. She put this image up with SOS alert, so you'd grab people's attention, and this could post to either a team channel, or it could post to a chat message. And again, they're being built with JSON, but there's a drag and drop designer that I'm going to show you. And so the whole idea with adaptive cards, or at least the main business case, I would say, is that we're all switching between devices and apps and out in the field and just kind of really busy and running around, and we're not sitting often just at our laptop, or even if we are at our laptop, we're also on our mobile devices and things like that. So adaptive cards can help increase engagement by injecting your actionable content right into the apps that they use every day. So making it easy. You're getting this nice big card with choices or options and what to do, and kind of automating a process in that way. So again, I love approvals. So it's actually very easy to add an approval adaptive card into Teams. So in the past, approvals would go to flow or Power Automate flows. Oh my goodness, I'm still not used to saying Power Automate. It's a tough one. So your Power Automate approvals would be sent to your email. They would be sent to the approval center in Power Automate, and they would be sent to your mobile app. So you had those choices to be able to take action on your approvals, which is great. But with us all working in teams now, or many of us, or our hope is to be working in teams, it makes sense that your approvals would also be able to go to a channel or chat message. If the approval is just for you to approve, then it definitely makes sense for it just to go to a chat message rather than a channel message where everyone's going to see it. And I'm going to show you that now. So let me out of here, and I am going to go to my flows. So this is the first one I'm going to show for social media consecutive approval. So when the idea of this flow is you've got someone on your marketing team, maybe an intern, maybe you just, you have a process where you want one or two people to be reviewing your social media messages. If someone posts something that's inappropriate, that can really be detrimental to your organization. So you want some checks and balances there. So what you can do is you can have a SharePoint list and have the social media message entered there, and then have it go for an approval. And then send that to Teams. And then if they approve, send it to someone else. And this is all getting posted in Teams. And then at the end of it, post the tweet and update the item in SharePoint. So I am going to go back to Teams, to our marketing department, where we have a tab for social media messages. And this is just displaying a SharePoint list. So I'm going to add I'm realizing I had the hashtag wrong. It's not 2020, it's just 20. Oh, don't do this to me again. All right, I've been having trouble getting to add a new item from this in Teams. So let me go to the SharePoint version. I need to figure out what's going on with that. So here's that same list. I'm gonna write hashtag ESPC20 is coming up soon. Be there or be square. All right, so this is the message. I'm an intern. This is what I think is a great thing to say on our social media, our corporate social media. So I'm going to save, and that should trigger my flow. And now in Teams, I should get a message. There it goes. So I've received a message. Was requested, who it was requested by. I could link to the message right here to look at it, but I'm going to go ahead and approve it. And I don't need any comments. I'm going to submit it. I'll get another one because we have what's called a consecutive approval. So 2 people are going to approve consecutively, and they both just happen to be me. So I'm approving that, submitting. And now if I go look at that Twitter account, where is it? It just sometimes takes, oh yeah, so there. So this, like, think about time that was saved there. We've got 2 different people who need to approve a message. What are some of the ways we would have done that if we weren't using automation? We would have done it in an email. Maybe we would have done it in a chat message, but that wouldn't have, that information wouldn't be recorded anywhere, because in this list it's updating to say it's approved, and we could waste a lot of time. So it's just and we can look at all of these messages in our team. I'm having trouble getting it to add a new one for some reason, but it's just all central in context, right there for us. So another example of a adaptive card I want to show is the Twitter adaptive card. So my friend Daniel Laskowitz actually helped me with this one, but you can, based when a new tweet is posted with a hashtag or whatever sequence of words, you can post an adaptive card as the flow bot to a channel. So I didn't really talk about my background too much at the beginning, but I'm definitely more on the power user spectrum of things. I don't like code. I don't like writing code. I don't, I want things to work. I love automating processes, but when I start looking at this, I'm like, oh, that kind of looks like code, and that looks like something my brain's not going to want to do. So where did this come from? And that is adaptivecards.io gives you a tool to be able to create these fairly simply. So if I go to samples, there's all these samples of these adaptive cards you can see here on the right. Publish adaptive card schema. Let's look at another one. Restaurants. This is an adaptive card, like the rich content, and then you want more info, click this button and it'll bring you somewhere. Let's see, what else? Agenda. I like this one a lot. So this is our agenda, the times, who's going to be there, the map, everything. Like, so you can take one of these and you can click try it for yourself, and it gives you the JSON code, and you can use the card elements and card structure to change it the way you want. And then, and as you're changing it, it's updating the JSON. So then you can copy and paste it and then put it, so I can copy and paste this and then go back to my flow and put that here in the message. So it's doable. I mean, it took me a little bit to get the hang of it, but it's very powerful. And I think it's very powerful for our users, because instead of just getting a message or getting an email about something, you're getting this card with information that's visually appealing, that's going to get your attention. So this is posting, the Flowbot is posting this adaptive card into a channel in my team, ESPC social media. And so here I can track what everyone's saying about the conference. I could view the tweet. There's much more you could do with this. Like, you could add a reply to tweet button and have that built in. It's just, again, you're staying in Teams. You don't having to go out to Twitter and like do a search for that hashtag every couple days to make sure you're getting traction, or that make sure that no one's posting something negative. It brings it all into you, and you can view it here. Go back to my slides. That's really what I wanted to show you today. I hope that makes sense. It's really, again, just keeping our teamwork and productivity in one place, and ways we can do that. I'm really excited to see. I feel like the Flowbot is still growing, and there's going to be a lot more opportunity there. Let me go. Do I have any questions?
Thanks for a great presentation, Melissa. Yeah, now we will start the questions and answers part, and should you wish to ask a question, type it into the questions window now. Okay, Melissa, so first question, how do you add a Power App to a team?
Oh, okay, that's a great question. So I am not a Power Apps guru. I love Power Apps. Um, I want to learn more about them. I've created some simple ones, but what I find is that some organizations, they are like, we want to start using Power Apps. We maybe have this idea where it might be a good idea to use it in Teams. You can easily kind of do a proof of concept by going, well, let me slow down. You're seeing my screen still, right?
Yeah, I can still see it.
Okay, so let me actually go to the technology team. So here's an example of a Power App that was added to a tab in this channel, Asset Checkout. This is the IT team. You can choose what you want and then check out. Okay, I did not build this. This is a Power App template, but you can see how if you have an idea and you're trying to do a proof of concept with stakeholders, being able to add these very easily to get ideas would be really, really helpful. So if you go to add a tab and then do Power Apps, it'll give you these choices. There we go. Okay, so book a room, budget tracker, contest registration, customer success. Let me just click this one. I haven't looked at this one before. And then boom, you've got a Power App that people can look at, click on. Looks like they've got some dashboarding connected with this. It's just a great way to get ideas. So that's how you can connect a Power App to a team.
Okay, brilliant. Next question. Can you send flow approvals to more than one person?
Yes, you absolutely can. You can send flow approvals to one or more people. You can also decide whether you want everybody to need to approve or just one person can approve.
Okay. Next question. Are the three teams triggers that you demonstrated the only ones available?
The three teams triggers. As far as I know, yes, those are the only ones. I'll actually show you that. So if I go to my flows and I go to new flow and I go automated from blank, like teams test, let's skip through here. And now this is where you search for your triggers. I'm going to put teams, and this is where they come up. And the actions. So there might be a more developer way to trigger something that happens in Teams, maybe using the graph or something like that. It's a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, but as far as just the traditional Teams triggers, yeah, it's just these three.
Okay, great. And who can create flows?
So if you have a flow license, you can create flows. So unless it's turned off for your organization or turned off for certain users, everyone can create flows.
Okay. Can you use Flow to get a form with an attachment and then create an item in a SharePoint list with that for content and its attachment too? I'll read that again maybe.
No,
Can
I
you?
think I get it. Yeah,
Okay,
you've got a form and you let me pull up my form just so we can all visualize it. So where did I have that form? Recruiting. So we've got a form, it looks something like this, but it has an attachment, and we want to take all that information and the attachment and add that to the SharePoint list with the attachment, right? Does that sound right?
yeah, sounds right to me. I'm no
Yes.
expert though, but the
I
person has said that's correct. Yes.
Okay, cool. Yes, I do believe that is available. I have not personally done that, but let me take a note and I can I know that there's people who have blogged about that. There's a girl, lady named Megan. I don't know if there's any way I could send up a follow-up or if the person wants to give me their email and I could try to point them to a blog
Sure.
post.
If you just go to your last friend there, I think you have your contact details there, Melissa, so I'm sure they can reach out to you.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah,
And they have shared their email address here, so I'll send it on afterwards as well.
okay.
So yeah, you can connect directly. That is all we have on the questions, Melissa. Thank you so much for getting up very early this morning to help us out with this. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I drank a lot of coffee today. No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and it's a topic I'm really passionate about. So if you think of any more questions or ideas, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Melissa, thank you so much. Okay, everybody, that is pretty much it for today's webinar. A big thank you as well to my colleague Ella, David, and Aoife, who have helped out with Teams Week this week. If you're interested in us covering any other topics for you, please do let us know, especially Ella. She'd be delighted to get an email from you with some requests for topics for us to cover. A big thank you again to Melissa Hubbard for helping us out today. That is the end of today's webinar. Finally, I just want to mention that our call for speakers is open, and also that we have a 30% discount ticket offer which ends on Thursday, the 27th of February. Check out sharepointeurope.com for full details. Our final, that's today is our final webinar as part of Teams Week, but please do join us next week for our next webinar with Erica 2L. Again, full details at sharepointeurope.com. Thank you all for joining us today. Take care and goodbye.